Welcome to Future Foodcast. I'm Pam Miller, your host, and we are excited for another episode of Future Foodcast, talking about technology, innovation, all things happening in the food industry. Thank you to our sponsor, Farm to Plate. They are creating tomorrow's food business ecosystem today in the food industry. You can find out more at farmtoplate.io. Well, sometimes there are things in our lives that we don't really think a lot about, but they are crucial elements that really help things come to us in the way they're supposed to and maintain their integrity. You'll see what I'm talking about in just a minute, because we are talking with the founder and CEO of We Seal, Richard Hobson. Richard, welcome to the podcast.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, so we today are talking about one of those small items that is really integral to us getting fresh food. Why don't you share a little bit about what We Seal Limited does?
Well, We Seal is known predominantly sealing loaves of packaged bread. We seal over 4 billion units every year. It's one of those things that we all take for granted. So all over the world seals those bread packets. And ours is unusual in the States. Sell the product to 21 countries. And all it does is seal the top of an industrial loaf. And I say industrial, I don't mean industrial because we eat it every day, but that consumer bread that we all know and love from our local retailer.
And when I buy a loaf of bread at the store, I haven't put much thought into how it's sealed. That's what I'm talking about. This is an item that is critical in keeping my bread fresh, yet I don't usually think about it.
Absolutely. And I think, we call it small but mighty. Ours is a small self-adhesive little bit of buttons and closers at the top of a loaf of bread. And it keeps the bread tightly sealed. And actually, it keeps the bread fresh for longer. And one of the topics of conversation, especially today, is about bread freshness generally of food products, and not wasting bread.
Absolutely.
Or any food product.
What I want to say, I'm here in the United States and you're in the UK, and obviously We Seals seals for the bags are in 21 countries, as you said. I hope you're coming to the United States soon, because what do we currently have? And let's talk about how your product compares, because I know I've forever, twist ties have existed forever, and little plastic.
We call those the rigid plastic tag and the twist tie. We also have a popular product here in Europe called a clip band. That in different parts of the world, different ones of those will have dominance. In the US and Canada, for example, the rigid plastic tag and the twist tie own the market. They're 100% market share, more or less. We've got tiny little inroads coming at the moment.
Your product is different from that. How? So explain to our listeners how the We Seal is different from the twist tie and the plastic tag.
First and foremost, ours is a self-adhesive tape product. And I know you might go, oh no, not that seal we can't open. Most people, when they think of a tape bag closure, it's that tiny bit of tape around the top of your carrots or your apples, and you just can't get in the pack. And you've got to cut the top off the bag or cut open the tape. Well, ours is a resealable tape product with easy to open ends. So it's easy for the consumer to use, to open the product and to reseal it. So that is somewhat different to what you're used to. I think the products that you've been using have been in existence for probably decades now. And people just get used to doing it the way they do it. So ours is a new technology to North America, but actually it's not new in the rest of the world.
Well, and not new in the rest of the world. You've actually been in this business for 40 years, in this sealing business.
Unfortunately, yes. I've been in this business 40 years. I know I don't look old enough. I'm using the light to make me look younger, but I've been around this block for a very long time. And we've been sealing lots of different things and manufacturing tapes for lots of different applications. But this is the one that excites me right now.
Yeah, and for those of you that are listening to us, you can't see how young Richard actually looks. Those of you on YouTube can see. So that might incense you to check out this episode on YouTube so you can actually see what Richard looks like. One of the things I liked, however, is that I can tell you're passionate about this. As you're describing it, you're working it. You're talking about how easy your resealable tape is to use, as opposed to the one that I always have to cut off. Exactly like you said, I have to cut it off and throw it away, and I cannot use it again. And you said yours is reusable, so I can unseal it and reseal it on the same bag. Like if I don't use all the carrots, I know you work with bread right now, but my example of the carrots, where I have to cut it off, I have to find something else to reseal the bag if I only use 3 carrots.
Absolutely.
I love the reusable feature in your product. I think that's fabulous. I want that over here in the United States.
So from a sustainability point of view, people talk about reuse, recycle, reduce. So reduce the amount of packaging required, reuse it if possible, and then recycle it. So this is absolutely central to what we do as a business. So we've reduced the amount of material in there. So compared, for example, to the rigid plastic tag, our product only weighs 20%. So you get 5 seals for every 1 rigid plastic tag. And so we've reduced the raw material that is in there. We can then reuse it as we open and close that seal through the many slices of the pack. We can reuse that as many times as is required. Or as you mentioned, carrots, we pack red peppers in Holland, and we pack many other products as well. But we can reuse the product many times. And then, of course, to be able to recycle it. So recycling the product, we make this product out of a polyolefin film, a polypropylene film, which is absolutely recyclable with the bread bag. And again, when we're looking at waste streams and moving forward to recycling more and more of our product, this is a natural. So when you've got mixed material seals, like the twist tie, for example, that makes it difficult to recycle. The clip band is the same. So our product is the same material structure as the bread bag. So it's eminently recyclable.
I think that's fabulous. Well, not only is it recyclable and reusable, in other words, we can reseal it on our bag of bread when we don't eat all the pieces of the bread that are in there. The current really largest market that you have, I think, is the bread. It's made from recycled material as well. It's like a full circle product.
Absolutely. So all of our product contains 30% recyclate. We could go further and make it 100% recycled. We could look at other materials in there as well, like biopolymers. Our customers have to be willing to pay the premium for some of those things. And our customer isn't the consumer necessarily, but our bakery or produce packing customers have to be willing to pay the premium. And I think that conversation, that debate is ongoing with the consumer to actually pull more of that product. But, it's an ongoing story, this whole area of recyclability.
Absolutely. And I think it's always hard, in the manufacturing world to justify making a change in whatever you're doing, no matter what positives your product has. And consumers do care about using materials that have been recycled and to make your new product. They do care that your product is then able to be recycled after it's used. And they do care that while I have it in my possession, I can use it multiple times. I can seal and reseal. So from a consumer standpoint, there's a lot of positives here. But one thing I don't always understand is I'll call them the P words, Richard, and you're the expert in that area, but all these plastics are made out of different kinds of poly, and then the end of the word is always different. And so
Absolutely.
Can you just a couple of the bigger ones for us so our listening audience can have a window into your world a little bit as far as materials?
Certainly. I think The one that the retailers tend to be favoring are polyolefin, which is a long word that people don't often hear. Polyolefins are polypropylene and polyethylene. So your soft packaged bread is usually a polyethylene bag, poly bag we sometimes refer to it as, and the more crinkly packaging that you might find on the bakery shelf might be a polypro, and both of those products are recyclable together. And what the retailers certainly here and in other parts of the world, Australia specifically and Africa, they are focusing the retailers' attention towards those polyolefin films because it's easy to recycle them and it's very easy to pack lots of different products in those simple films. The rigid plastic tag usually constructed out of polystyrene, and polystyrene itself is recyclable. However, you need to get enough polystyrene together to recycle it in one place. And that's the challenge. So a lot of these plastics are recyclable, but it's not economically viable to do so. So with polypropylene and polyethylene, because they're 80% of what packaged goods are packed in, the retailers are encouraging food manufacturers and others to use that common material so that more of it can be recycled. And in the end, we end up with circular economy of plastics.
Yeah, thank you so much for going through some of that, because that's I get the P words mistaken. And in the area of plastics, and we're talking about those very thin materials like bread bags and Urseal, that's very lightweight, and the impact that can have when you're talking about going to scale. So I think it's as we talk about sustainability, and I know there's a lot of discussion about carbon footprints and all of that, it all adds up, and making something out of a product that can actually be recycled with other things as opposed to that mixed material you were talking about is really important. I mean, I don't know what the focus is for your company as far as sustainability. I mean, maybe you can share with us a little bit about your approach. And you already have a great product that is serving a lot of the pillars in the sustainability world.
And I think, we're challenged. We're a relatively small business. Our product is small but mighty. It's available all over the place, but we're a small business actually. And when we compare ourselves to the huge businesses that are out there, whether they're food manufacturing or the retailers or whatever, we're a tiny little cog in that very, very large machine. And I think within our business, we've had this approach. We hear of carbon footprint, for example, as being a phrase, and we've tried to say, well, can we personalize that a little bit? Can we talk about our carbon fingerprint, for example? What can we do that actually has an impact in our small way, but is important to us as a business? And I just want to go back to that word sustainability. Because when we started talking about this as a management team, we started to address that sustainability thing. And the most important point with sustainability is that our business is sustained. It is very important that financially we are sustained as a business. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what we do for the environment or our staff or whatever else. If we have no business, all of the rest of it falls away. Very important that we weave into our business, good business practice. We have to have a product that's at the right price, that serves the market, all of those traditional items in that marketing mix. But at the same time, we are conscious as a 21st century business that we have to have an eye on the environment. So we've got these two very different topics that are going on that are both important. The human civilization and our survival. And I think, so as a business, we're trying to focus on both. So should we use plastic? Can we reduce the amount of plastic that we use? Is plastic the right product for certain applications? Should we have so much single-use disposable plastic? These are questions that we should be asking just because of the waste that we create. I've traveled a lot in the US. Maybe we could be better at the amount of waste that we generate, maybe. And also we look at, sometimes we look at paper and these products that are being packed in paper that actually is, you may be familiar with the phrase greenwashing. Sometimes these paper products, these coffee cups that are made out of paper, but are actually plastic lined so that the water doesn't seep out. Well, that's a non-recyclable product. It might make us feel better to use it, but actually it's not sustainable. It's not helpful, actually. So I think, and from our point of view, should we be making our product out of plastic at all? That's the elephant in the room. Should we be making it out of paper or whatever? But we make it out of plastic. We could make it out of paper, but we make it out of plastic because the bread is packed in plastic. And actually, because the bread is packed in plastic for very good economic and environmental reasons. A bread bag is very efficient at the job it does. It keeps the product moist. It keeps it fresh. For paper to do that, it has to have a lining. And I know they're coming up with new styles of linings now, but it still makes the product 8 times heavier than the current plastic bag and cost a lot more. And it's very difficult to pack. So at the moment, we're comfortable using plastic. And then I go back to the climate change issue. What should we be doing to reduce our carbon footprint? What can we do to walk the walk in our small business? How can we change the way in which we operate our business that is still sustainable financially, but is still addressing the climate issues? And one of the things that we're trying to do as a small business is offset our carbon by planting trees. We've done some research into the amount of carbon that we're creating as a business, carbon dioxide. And therefore, we're saying, well, okay, there are some things that we can help reduce. We're investigating solar panels, for example, in our car park, and we're reducing the amount of energy that we use. We're trying to cut down the amount of travel that is required for our product, and all of those good things that feed into that carbon footprint. Carbon fingerprint. And at the same time, we're saying, well, okay, we are going to generate carbon dioxide. How can we offset that? So we've embarked on a scheme of planting trees. And the trees that we have planted and will complete planting will mean that by the time we've all reached 2030, they will be absorbing more carbon dioxide than we are creating as a business. And as every year goes on after that, they will consume more and more and more carbon dioxide. So we are future-proofing our business for the growth that we're anticipating.
You're doing the best you can with the information that you have, Richard, and we don't have all the answers right now. And it sounds like that's a great solution, but really at the core of your business is a solution, because you're making a product that is made from recycled material, is reusable itself, and is also recyclable, and goes along with the product that the bread is packaged in to be recycled. And that's all very exciting and makes sense. And I, as a consumer, I think is a great potential solution moving forward.
For our customers, though, their biggest fear is that the consumer won't get it. The consumer, there is a fear of change. We're used to doing it this way. Oh my Lord, we'll never sell another loaf of bread again if we seal it with a reseal. We've been doing it this way for 50 years. There is a fear that the consumer might reject this. It's not been our experience as this product has been introduced around the world. We've not had this problem at all, but there is that fear. And I think it is a fear of change. And, how do we educate the consumer? How do we tell that story? One of the reasons I'm here today is just to talk about it and take away. At the end of the day, nobody's going to die here. We're talking about sealing a loaf of bread. It's a step in the right direction. Yes, it's different, but it's okay. We'll be fine. We'll be able to sleep tonight. But it is, that fear of change and the fear of the consumer actually weighs heavy on the biggest bakeries in the land.
Right, because your customer, I forget, your customer is really business. You're business to business. You aren't selling your sealer to individuals like me. You're selling it to bakeries and large bakeries that make large quantities of bread and baked goods that they need something to seal their package with. So you're right. Consumer education is important in all of these areas. It's always a struggle because we are such creatures of habit. But I will tell you, I would be totally on board if I didn't have to clip tape that is like electrical tape to me that you cannot undo, that's wrapped around some of the plastic bags I get here in the US, or do another twist tie or little plastic tab that gets thrown in my junk drawer because I don't want to throw it away. And maybe I'm going to have another use for it moving forward. I just love the idea of your product. So I'm so glad that you have come on our podcast to share about what WeSeal is doing and about your product. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience before we go? Because we have a lot of information.
Well, I think your audience is predominantly based in North America, and I would say, although we operate all over the world, North America is by far the biggest opportunity for us. It's the largest market in the world for sliced bread, for industrially packaged bread, and I always feel that in using the phrase industrial bread sounds like the wrong thing to say, really, but the large manufactured bread. And so for me, I just want to say it's okay. Don't be frightened. It'll be all right. We'll come out the other side. But I think it's really exciting, the opportunity, and as we develop into the North American market, you'll start seeing our product in more and more places, and all of a sudden it'll catch light, and there'll be some real desire to move forwards with it. So we're optimistic. We believe our product, we believe in our product, and we believe our product can give some solutions to some of those things we've been talking about today.
Absolutely. Richard, thank you so much for sharing with us. And if you, our listeners, have enjoyed hearing this information and getting the education on what's happening in the world of food with innovation and technology, new products, new materials, share us a comments and let us know what other kind of things you'd like to hear about. Subscribe to us, and we look forward to engaging with you again next week.
Thanks for listening to Future Foodcast. Future Foodcast is powered by Farm to Plate, the leading food blockchain platform. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to stay up to date with the very latest innovations in the food industry.